Okay, today we are continuing our lesson with order of operations. On Friday, we did our little doodle notes page where we had the colorful, like you can color in some of those doodle notes. We talked about PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, representing parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, and then last add and subtract. We also copied down some vocabulary words. So if you did not have a chance to copy those vocab words, you can just copy them from a friend. Get them from my journal whenever you have time. You just need to make sure that they are in your glossary at some point. So those three words that we copied down are numerical expression, which is an expression that contains numbers and operations. We had an example that you copied down as well, and it was 2 plus 5 times 4. That is a numerical expression. You're going to see that a lot. Evaluate. Evaluate just means solve or find the value of a numerical expression. And then order of operations is a set of rules that we use to find the solution to a numerical expression. Okay, so it's just a set of rules, PEMDAS. All right, our key concept, our order of operations, it gives me several examples. It says first, I want to perform operations in grouping symbols. We've only talked about parentheses, but something else that I want to point out to you are these symbols here. We call these brackets, the straight ones, and these squiggly ones are called braces. You may see these also, and they are the same thing. We want to make sure that we are doing any operations inside any of those grouping symbols first. Then step 2, we go and solve any numbers with exponents. And then we multiply and divide from left to right, whatever comes first. It's not always multiply just because M comes before D in our acronym. It's whatever comes first, reading that problem left to right. And then last, we add and subtract in order from left to right. Okay, we have our first example, and it's already done for us, so we're just going to kind of walk through it. It says evaluate 12 minus 2 times 4. In that problem, I would want to do the 2 times 4 first, which is 8, and then I'm going to do 12 minus 8 to get 4. Okay, and when we worked them out on Friday in our doodle notes, we worked it out in a way that it funneled the answer all the way down, kind of like in the shape of a pizza or a tornado, if you wanted to look at it like a tornado. Okay, same thing for B. It just has more grouping symbols. So this is very important. Please make sure that you are listening and paying attention. I have a grouping symbol operation inside of another grouping symbol. Do y'all notice that? I have parentheses inside of brackets. What do you think I have to do first? Annie, what do you think? The parentheses. I'm going to work from the inside outward. Okay, so I'm going to do the innermost operation, which is right here in the parentheses. So I'm going to do 4 plus 2 first, which is 6. See how they're rewriting it? They brought the 60 down. They brought the divide down. They solved 4 plus 2, which is 6, and then times 5. Notice how it's still inside grouping symbols. So the next thing I have to do is a 6 times 5, which is 30. And then I can do 60 divided by 30 to get 2. Y'all see how that works? Okay. All right, well, what if I throw in some exponents? Well, inside the parentheses, I have 2 different things I can do. I have addition, but I also have exponents. Which one do you think you would do first? Carter?
Exponent.
The exponent, because it comes first in order of operation. So I would do 2 to the 3rd power, which is not 2 times 3. What is it actually? 2 times 2 times 2 again. So 4 times 2 is 8. So this equals 8. Notice how they've rewritten it right here. So now inside parentheses, I have 7 plus 8. So then I bring everything else down. 30 divided by 7 plus 8 times 6. I still have an operation inside the parentheses. So 7 plus 8 is 15. Bring everything else down and work it left to right, because all I have left is division and multiplication. So 30 divided by 15 is 2. Then multiply it by the 6 to get 12. One step at a time, okay? All right, so now we're going to practice 1 through 4 together. So I've got these questions typed up for you on your practice page. So this is on page, what is it in your journal? 12, thank you. Okay, so you should be on page 12 in your journal. We are looking at the first 4 problems, these right here, and we're going to do it just like we did on Friday, where we practice solving one step at a time. So we're going to underline the first thing that I'm going to solve. In number 1, what does that dot mean? Annie? Multiplication. There's different ways you can see multiplication. In the Plickers practice we just did, we also saw it where the number was right up against the parentheses, and that means to also multiply. So you will see multiplication represented different ways. Okay, so 7 times 5 or 5 plus 3, what goes first?
7 times 5.
7 times 5. So we underline it and we solve it. And guys, I know it seems silly to underline it and solve it for such a short problem. What we're doing is we are practicing good habits, because your problems will eventually start to grow and get bigger, and it is so important to solve one thing at a time. That way you can go back and see where your mistake is if you made one. All right, bring down what we haven't used, that plus 3, and last thing I do is add 35 plus 3, which is 38. So it looks like a little slice of pizza with 1 pepperoni. Number 2, I have grouping symbols inside grouping symbols. Which one do I do first?
The parentheses.
The parentheses. I work from the inside out. So the first one is going to be 15 minus 10, which is 5. Bring down everything I haven't used yet. So inside the brackets, I still have 6 plus 5. And then outside the brackets, I have times 5. What will I do next? 6 plus 5, which is 11. Bring down the times 5. And last thing I'll do is 11 times 5, which is 55. Okay. On number 3. What does 2 to the 5th power actually mean? It's not 10. Cooper? Right, so 2, I'm going to expand this out. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, I'm going to do that first. So that is 4, 8, 16, 32. So 32, now I rewrite my problem, minus 2 to the 3rd power times 4. What will I do next? 2 to the 3rd power. I'm going to circle it just so it stands out a little bit more. You can underline or circle the parts that you're solving. If I'm writing, you're writing. Everybody's got what I have in their journal. Okay, so what that means is 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. So I rewrite my problem, and this is what I'm left with, 32 minus 8 times 4. Okay, now what do I do? 32 minus 8 or 8 times 4?
8 times 4.
Why 8 times 4?
Because you multiply.
Because in order of operations, it's parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, and last add and subtract. So you've got to be careful. 8 times 4 is 32. 32 minus 32 is 0. I used to teach a way to remember parentheses to the Cupid shuffle. Everybody know that? We would do parenthesis, 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 exponent, 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 and then you go mult and div. Or it was mult because like a dot, and then div, like a slash, divide, and then add and subtract, add and subtract. So if you know the Cupid shuffle, we used to sing that a lot when it was like really popular. I haven't taught it like that, but I am happy to sing the Cupid shuffle with you guys for order of operations. We can do that in class sometimes.
Can we do that today?
Okay, I know some of you are trying to work that one out. If you're still working, that's fine. I do have the answer up on the board. So the first thing I would do is 5 squared, which means 5 times 5, and that's 25. I still haven't solved everything inside the parentheses. So then I've got to do 25 minus 7. That gives me 18. Now I have no more parentheses left. So I just go to see, do I have any exponents in the rest of my problem? No. Do I have any multiplication or division in my problem? Yes. That's what I do first. 18 divided by 3 is 6. I'm just left with addition, and 16 plus 6 is 22. We do okay? Okay. 5, 6. We'll see how far we get. We'll do as much as we can. So number 5, this is just like the one Cooper was asking about. Okay. First thing I want to do is solve what's inside parentheses. Something I would do for a while until I got the hang of it is I would put this off to the side of every problem, and I would use it as like a checklist. So I start at the top. Do I have anything inside parentheses? Yes. Okay, so 12 divided by 4 is 3. Okay, I'm going to bring everything else that I haven't done yet straight down. Now remember, this is like 6 times 3. So if you want to get rid of the parentheses and do 6 times 3 instead, that's fine. Do I have any other operations inside parentheses that I need to solve? No, so I'm going to mark out the P from my checklist. Do I have any exponents?
Yes.
Yes. So I'm going to do that part next. 8 to the second power is not 16. What is it?
64.
64. Bring everything else straight down. So notice how I'm going to put the dot times 3. I don't want to be confused by those parentheses, so I'm just going to do 6 times 3. Do I have any other exponents, or did I do them all?
You did them all.
So I'm going to mark out the E in my checklist. Now I've got to multiply and divide from left to right. Do I have any multiplication or division?
Yes.
Yes, right here. 6 times 3, which is 18. Bring everything else down. Do I have any other multiplication or division? Nope, so I cross that off. Now I'm left with adding and subtracting from left to right. So 50 plus 18, 68. And then last but not least, minus 64 is 4. And again, it makes that nice funnel shape or the slice of pizza shape. Okay. On number 6, do we want to rewrite it first? Or do we want to go ahead and just solve it kind of the way it's set up for us? Okay, so what is it showing me? How do I read that number, that numerical expression? 8 times 2 plus 5 divided by 7. So everything on the top I need to do first. The last thing I'll do is divide by 7. Okay, so I'm going to do 8 times what's in the parentheses here. 2 plus 5, which is 7. And I'm just going to bring everything down I haven't used yet. So my new problem is basically 8 times 7 and then divided by 7. So what do I need to do first? I work in order, multiply, divide, left to right, or top to bottom. What's 8 times 7? 56. And then divided by 7 equals 8. So it can look like this. But I'm also okay if you rewrite it. If I rewrote it, what I would want to do is I would want to do it like this so that I have everything grouped together that's on the top. And then it would look like this. And then it would be 56 divided by 7, which is 8. So those are 2 different ways to show that. Okay, we're going to stop there and we're going to finish tomorrow. So close your journal, put your journal on the shelf. All right, so we got through the first 6 problems yesterday in our in-class practice for lesson 1.3. We're going to finish the rest of our in-class practice, and then you guys will start your actual 1.3 practice from the book, which I actually had pre-printed the pages, so you don't need your book today. I'll just give you the page with all the problems and the work page to go with it. Okay. Why does 12 minus 8 divided by 2 equal 8, but 12 minus 8 in parentheses divided by 2 equal 2? Ritter, can you explain?
Because you have to do where you do 12 divided by 8. So you have to do like 8 divided by 2, and then 4, or 12 minus 4 would be 7. No, 8.
I'm going to put OOO for order of operations. It works because the order of operations says to divide first. So you do 12 minus 4 is what you're saying?
Yeah, and then do, yeah.
12 minus 8 in parentheses divided by 2 equals 2 doesn't work because why?
Because like that's in parentheses, and you have to do the parentheses first. But if it's order of operation and you don't have the parentheses, you have to do the order of operation first.
So if I'm still trying to get 8, because 12 minus 8 is 4 and 4 divided by 2 is 2, okay? So that is giving me a different answer than 8. So if I were grouping and trying to get 8 as my answer, I can't put parentheses around 12 minus 8 because I'm now saying which operation is being done first is no longer division. It's now subtraction, and I'm having to do the subtraction first. So I'm going to end up with 2 instead of 8, like I would in the other problem. Okay? So if I add parentheses, it changes what operation I do first. Okay, does everybody understand? When you add in parentheses, it's going to change the operation that comes first. Unless your operations are just all the same, then it wouldn't matter. But in this case, it does. Okay, going back to the book pages. Making sure everybody's good. Still see a few pencils moving. Okay, you can look over and copy from a friend if you need to. So let's go back and look at this part here. I'm a picture person. I'm very visual. Remember, I'm right-brained whenever we did that brain thing. So I'm a visual person. So I would draw myself a square and label what I know. Side lengths of 40 meters. You divide the land into 64 equal parts. So what does that mean? I'm going to split it up into how many columns and how many rows? Ren?
There should be 8 rows and 8 columns.
There should be 8 columns. And then there should be 8 rows. If I'm going to split it up into 64 equal parts. Again, I'm visual. It helps me to see what I'm working with. What is the area of each part? Okay, so I can see what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out what the area is of just this. So how can I use the area of the whole square using side lengths of 40? How could I set this up? Let's talk through it. Ren, what's the first thing that I would want to know?
Like, you just want to know
I only want to know the area of one of the little parts, one of the 64
You
parts.
know that there's 8 squares and it's 40 meters long, so you would divide 40 by 8.
But first, I want to find the area first. So I would find the area of what first? Cooper? The whole thing. Okay, so that's going to be 40 squared. Okay. Now what would I maybe do? Cooper, what do you think would be next?
Then you divide the 40, like, I don't know.
Can I divide yet?
You would have to,
Everly, what do you think I need to do next?
you either need to multiply 40 times, you need to multiply 40 times 40.
So that's the 40 squared. I have my 40 squared. That's part of my problem. So I'm for sure going to do that. But then what would I have to do next? What would be my next step? After that. After I know the full area, after I know the total area, what do I need to do?
Divide by 64.
Okay, so I could divide the total area by 64. Is that going to give me my answer? Does everybody agree?
Yes.
Do you want to try it?
Yes.
Okay. So how's another way I could get to show, just like the example problem I had a minute ago, remember it was like 40 squared minus something squared. What gives me 64?
8 times 8.
8 squared. So it might look something like this. Okay, so let's try it. I know that 4 squared is 16, right? Okay, so I would have to add how many zeros?
2.
Yeah. So this is going to be 1,600 minus just 64. Divide by 64? Okay. So over here, 1,600 divided by 64. I know it goes into 160 twice, which is 128. After I subtract, I have 32, but I got to drop that 0. How many 64s go into 320? What can I multiply by 4 that ends in a 0? 5. So let's try 5. Let's try 64 times 5. That's 32. Does it work? Yep, works perfect. So what is the area of each part? 25 what? Meters what? Squared. You can also write 25 squared meters. Everybody give Cooper a big air 5 on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Great job, Cooper. Okay, here's our next one. I want you and your group that you're sitting with to talk about this one and see if you can figure out the total area of the small glass squares. This one's a little trickier. So put your brains together and see if y'all can figure out how to solve this one. So I'm going to explain this one more time because I forgot to hit record when I was explaining it. Okay, so what we did is we looked at the fact that it is 8 squares tall. So 40 divided by 8 means that each individual square is a 5 by 5 square. So we took 25, the area of one little square, times 28, which is how many little squares there are, and you get 700 square inches. All right. Here are some more examples. It says the symbols times and dot are used to indicate multiplication. You can also use parentheses to indicate multiplication. We talked a little bit about that too. So when you have that number that's right next to the parenthesis, we know we're multiplying. So when I see something like problem A, where the 10 is right next to here, that means I'm going to be multiplying 10 times whatever it is inside here. So I would do 5 plus 4 first to get 9. Then would I multiply 10 times 9 or would I do 9 squared?
9 squared.
9 squared, which is 81. And then the last thing I will do is multiply 10 times 81 to get 810. Okay, what if I see something like this though? What do you think I would do? Cooper, what do you think?
2 divided by 3.
So I would do 8 minus 2 first, which is what? 6, and then divided by 3. Remember, a fraction is really a division problem. So I would do 8 minus 2 to get the 6 here, divided by 3. So I rewrite it so that it looks like this to make it look a little easier. And then I solve. 8 minus 2 is 6. 6 divided by 3 is 2. And the last thing I do is add 2 to 9, and I end up with 11. Okay? Wow, this one's really long. What do I do first? Parentheses. 13 plus 7 is 20. Now I'm left with 10 minus 8 times 20 divided by 4 squared. What do I do next? I've done the
4 squared.
parentheses.
4 squared.
4 squared. Guys, look, notice this. This is not an operation. I can't do anything inside these parentheses. This is just showing multiplication here. Okay, a lot of times students get confused and they think they need to do this first because of the parentheses. What this is showing is just straight up multiplication, 8 times 20. So I would do 4 squared to get 16. Now I'm left with 10 minus 8 times 20 divided by 16. I need to multiply next, which is 160. Then I divide by 16 to get 10, and then 10 minus 10 is 0. Yes?
How do you get the 8 times 20? Like when it says 10 minus 8 and then parentheses 13 plus 7, how do you do that?
So I did the parentheses first. 13 plus 7, that's where the 20 came from.
Oh.
I just brought everything else down. 10 minus 8. And then I put the answer inside the parentheses once I solved it, 20. So now I'm left with 8 times 20. Does that make sense? If this confuses you, you can put in a dot or a time sign if that will help you not feel confused. Hang on just a second. Okay, let's, we don't have very much time. We've got like 4 minutes. So let's go back and start solving. All right. So we are looking at this page next, and it says connecting to real life. So how do order of operations connect to real life? Okay, I have a diagram. It's showing the landing zones for skydivers. Zone 1 is for experts, which is little. Okay, that little bottom left section is for experts. The remaining space is divided in half and designated as Zone 2 and 3 for tandem divers. What is the area of Zone 2? So what I would have to do first is figure out the total area of the whole thing. Okay, I know that this side length is 40, this is 40, so I would go ahead and do the total area, which is 40 squared. Then I would take away the area of Zone 1, which is a 20 by 20, so 20 squared. And I have to do that first, because then what I'm left with is this section here, but then I've got to divide it in half because it's split equally. Does everybody see how that works? Okay. So whenever I get to the final answer, Zone 2 is 600 square yards. All right, let's look at the questions, the 2 questions. I think you have just 2 left, 8 and 9. It says a square plot of land has side lengths of 40 meters. You divide the land into 64 equal parts. What is the area of each part? So you've got a square plot of land with side lengths of 40 meters.